Welcome back to the Hockey Show, and today we're talking about the Dallas Stars, one of the teams so far that have clinched the NHL playoffs for their quest for Lord Stanley Cup. And this team, the Dallas Stars, is currently, and I think has been for a little bit now, especially since I think for most of the season has been like my top pick for the Western Conference right now, because this team last season going into the playoffs, I was like, this team is up there. They're definitely up there, and they went far. They get to the Western Conference Finals after having a pretty good season. They beat the Minnesota Wild in a very back and forth series where they hold on tight after a fight, and the Wild are definitely a very solidly put together playoff team where they're very grindy, but they got their stars to put pucks in the back of the net. But they got a lot of strong guys to really outpower and outmaneuver the other team with a good goaltending. But the Stars are able to take them down. Next, the Seattle Kraken. They make them look like dust and they move on. But then the only team that can make them bounce out of the playoffs is the not cheating, but I'll talk about the Golden Knights another time. But the dirty damn Golden Knights, the team that made every other team look like a bunch of dusters on the field. And guess what? The Golden Knights did that to everybody. They made every team, whether it was Bob Bobrovsky, whether it was Jake Ottinger, whether it was whoever the hell else goaltenders they go through. The Golden Knights made every other team look like a bunch of losers out there. And to the best goaltenders, they made them look like nothing. Bobrovsky and Jake Ottinger, two of the best goaltenders in the league, especially in the playoffs, they made them look like they weren't even like NHL level goaltenders. Like they were riddled with holes like Swiss. So, the Golden Knights knocked them out, bounced them out of the playoffs. This season, though, I believe the holes have been patched. The issues going into the last playoffs, and I think during the offseason, we kind of talked about how they hadn't really fixed those holes. But I think throughout this season, a couple of their moves and just kind of the team itself, those holes have been patched. Namely, the defensive issues. Their defense was not good enough to really hold off and keep down a team like the Golden Knights, or a team if they ran into the Colorado Avalanche, right? They were not. Now, of course, when you have Jake Ottinger in the back, you can levy a little bit of that defensive control, right? But when you can run into a team that is as solid, tightly packed into a diamond as the Golden Knights are, you're gonna get knocked over by that kind of power, right? And the Dallas Stars just didn't have enough, if their defense last season was on a scale of 1 to 10 was a solid 7, the Golden Knights are a 10, right? They were a 10 last playoffs, and that just overpowered them. And for Ottinger and the lethal offense of the Dallas Stars, which I'll talk more about in a second, it just wasn't enough against that perfect 10 the Golden Knights were, right? This season, going into the playoffs, remember, I want to keep in mind, those first two games against the Golden Knights went to 2 OTs, right? And then the Golden Knights let off the gas and they started to look a little bit weird against the Dallas Stars, and the Dallas Stars pushed back against them. Then Vegas came back, right? Dallas almost knocked down the Golden Knights, remember. And the only time they didn't is when Vegas was playing like Vegas. When they weren't, Dallas was definitely a superior team. And I think if they went into the finals, I think they would have knocked down the Florida Panthers. It's just those damn Golden Knights. But remember, that series, first two games went to 2 OTs in a row, right? And they were so close to winning them. It's just Vegas was unstoppable. And they get knocked out. This season, I think the holes have been patched just enough to carry them through. The lethality of the offense has just gotten better, and Jake Ottinger is back and ready. And this just feels like the year where he's going to light the world on fire, This feels like the season where he just had that conversation with Henrik Lundqvist last night. This just feels like the season where the Dallas Stars are ready to really turn into a fireball. Because the offense is lethal as hell out there, right? And it just keeps getting better. Because last season, they go in with guys like Wyatt Johnston looking good, and we're like, oh yeah, they got some good depth. Ben and Sagan starting to look good again. But then, of course, the top line of Pavelski, Hintz, and Robo were up there, just being stellar. But this season, Johnston is 30 goals and 30 assists. Jamie Benn is up there at 60 points as well. Logan Stank Owen, on the scene has shown up and has been a fireball. And he's the kind of player that I see. He's not like a big grindy guy, right? He's 5'8", 170 pounds. But the guy, he's going to be out there on the ice. He is a fighter. That's his whole thing. Every single level of hockey that this guy's played at, he is dominated in. And in the playoff hockey, I think he's going to go out there and try to set the world on fire. He is a fighter. He's a gamer. He reminds me like a smaller Matthew Tkachuk in a way. And I just feel like him and Johnston, like, all the way, like, combined on the third line. Because you've got that, like, you have lines that could have guys of Robo, Rupe, and Pavelski, of course. But then you go down the lineup to guys like Jamie Benn and Sagan and Marchment. Then you get, like, Johnston and Stankoven. Like, this team just keeps going down the lineup of, like, 60, 50 points plus guys, right? It's insane, the offense that this team comes packed with. But then you have to then the biggest issue last season, right, was defense going into it. And the holes that have been patched. First of all, they go in already with last year's guys like Miro Heiskanen and Esa Lindell. Two defensemen that are just, I mean, especially Miro Heiskanen. If he could just ramp up the points totals one season, he is a Norris candidate, like, every single season. He just doesn't really get the points to get, like, that kind of recognition. But his defensive game, especially in the playoffs, is such a workhorse. He does everything so hard, and he plays like 35 minutes a night. He does like everything like Hedman and Yossi and Makar does, just without the overpowering like points production, right? Which is a sad thing, but he just is such a workout horse in his own back end. Lindell as well able to put up points on the board, but now guys like Thomas Harley, who is a 40-point defenseman, right? Huge. Christopher Tanev, especially being added, a guy who can just eat all the shots in the world, shut down so many plays, one of the best defensive shutdown guys in the league. Then you have like Ryan Suter and Hakanpää in the background as well. The team's for defense, right? Especially now when they can roll out Heiskanen and Harley, right? Too, like Heiskanen can just play defense and Harley can do like he can jump up into the play, and so can Heiskanen. But good like solid like pairing put out against any top line. But then you put out Lindell and Tanev. Once again, another good like puck-eating line. And then down the line to Suter and Hakanpää. Like, those two big guys, especially Ryan Suter, is just a goddamn brute, is going to go out on the ice so many times during the games in the playoffs. So for me, it's just like, it is going to be a huge pain in the ass for any team to play against them. And then, of course, you got Jake Ottinger, who seems primed to have his big, like, defining season, right? I think he's, 25 years old or so. Like, he's hitting that big stride of when goaltenders go into their prime years, right? And this is the time, I think, for him to shine. I know he already has in the past, right? I'm not saying he's not a bad goaltender now. I already think he's one of the best goaltenders in the league, and I think he is going to be, when he's 28 in a few seasons, he will be the number one guy in the league. But whatever. But right now, I think this is Ottinger's year to shine. So, going into the playoffs, how do they stack up against teams, right? For me, first round for the Dallas Stars. I think they most likely play, as of right now, the LA Kings. I do think they will hold on to that first overall spot. I don't think the Avs are going to catch them, but I've put just all their options here. So for me, I think the Kings are their top pick. And for me, I think it's an easy bounce, right? I think the Kings will go toe-to-toe with them a little bit, especially with the defensive game that they can play, and Talbot in the background, but Kopitar and Deneau, especially how they can play the game. Like, the Kings will have a tough fight, but especially the Stars are just way too good up front, and the Kings just are not good enough on the scoring side of things that they're going to knock down a team like this, right? And I think the Stars will have a fun time. It won't be a sweep. I don't think the Kings are an easy out for any team, but I think the Kings will hold on. And I think this is the type of series where the Kings will like shut them down for one game, but it'll be like such an offensive battle for the Stars that they just can't score. So it'll be like a 4-1, 4-2 series, but it will not go to 7. Then for me, I guess if they do play up against the Winnipeg Jets, for me, it would be a tough out, especially the year that Hellebuck has been playing. But for me, I think this is, once again, it's an easy pass. Because looking at the Jets' experience in the past of like how Connor and Scheifele, like how those guys are play in the past, and Tyler Toffoli just not really shining with the Jets joining the team. For me, I just think the Jets I think Hellebuck will steal 2 games, but it is still it is a passover for the Dallas Stars. The games the Jets win will be like 3-2 games where Hellebuck just shuts them down, but the other ones will be like a 5-2 game for the Dallas Stars to win. Like, it will be an easy pass. But then the second round, because there's just so much good competition in the league nowadays, the second round, the Colorado Avalanche. This will be a tough round where I think this will be a very fun matchup, because I do think McKinnon, just the absolute role that he's on this season, as this is his year, and Rantanen and just playing in Makar, being such clutch players, it will be a high scoring series, but I think last year didn't get any better or that much better from last year for the Avalanche, and I think once again, where the Avs just do not have the depth, and even a team like Seattle knocked them out. The Seattle Kraken, which, yes, like the team full of second lines, the Dallas Stars are basically that. From each of their top 3 lines, just over and over and over again. And it's not just like guys who score points, right? These are fighting players. Pavelski, especially. Rupe Hintz on that first line. Robertson's been a little bit of a mystery in the playoffs, but who knows? Maybe let's see what happens this season. But then after that, Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin, right? Johnston and Stankoven, right? Each of those lines, those are guys who are fighting to score goals, right? They're not just guys that are going to get, like, walked over, you know? So for me, the Avalanche, I think they got burnt by the Seattle Kraken, and it'll be the same story with the Dallas Stars. Stars move on. Vegas is where things are going to suck again. Because if they play Vegas, or even potentially like the Nashville Predators, but that Nashville would be an easy walk. But for the Vegas Golden Knights in the finals, in the Western Conference Finals, would be such a hard draw, because they were so good last year, and now this year they're going back with all that momentum. Marchessault is now a 40-goal scorer. Like, it is going to be tough. And I feel like it just depends on how effective guys like Johnston and Stankoven have been, if Seguin and Ben can step up to the plate. If everyone can play and Vegas can't make every team look like dummies again, I think the Stars can get past them. But if Vegas can play the way they did last year, then everyone is screwed. But Dallas, I really think this is a 50-50 draw, and I think since last year they got burned, this team doesn't remind me of a team that is going to get just walked over, and they are going to find that fight. Ottinger will find those saves, and they will move on. Finals. The Stanley Cup Finals. So yes, for me personally, I do think Dallas is my team, especially watching how they just played against the Edmonton Oilers last night, winning 5-0. This close to the playoffs, I think this team is a good team to pick on. For Dallas, for me, the Florida Panthers is where I'm kind of worried because of just how they do have Matthew Tkachuk in the playoffs. They have Barkov's, how Reinhardt's year is going. They are also so deep offensively, and then the goaltending and defensive pool is a little bit, you could go back and forth on who wins there. So that one, it is a very 50-50 draw. For the New York Rangers, I just see them as this is not their year. As good as they are, I think they're going to be so fun to watch. And for me, if I was to pick, I think Dallas is just such a fun team, right? Their home crowd is insane. And especially when their barn, when they score a goal, how electric it gets in there, to see them go like in Dallas and then go to New York and then hearing Madison Square Garden light up, that would be the funnest series in the world. And how offensively fun these two teams are to watch, and the goaltending that we'd get, and also the color matchup, the green and white and black versus the red, white, and blue, just going back and forth, like that would be such a fun series. Florida would be too, but since their home crowd's a little bit not like the most diehardest of fans, I would be a little bit on them. But for me, like, I don't know. I put an up arrow against New York, but I honestly don't know. I don't know what my opinion on that would be. It would be so hard because that's so deep into the playoffs. I don't even know what to think there. But then, like, the Carolina Hurricanes, I do think Dallas would get over them. I think what Carolina brings to the plate in the East is kind of what Dallas brings, but a little bit stronger. How it's just kind of like depth and depth and depth. So for me, I'm like Dallas probably wins that one. But for me, if I was to like, and I'll go say this again in my predictions video and probably say when I talk about whatever. But for me, I think Dallas versus the Rangers would be the most fun playoff matchup in league history, maybe. Just like the electricity that would go on, and also just like how much teams like people like these teams. Because like personally, like for Vegas, I go back and forth on hating and loving them, but especially watching them play and beating my team like the Sharks or the Dallas Stars and the Panthers, they just screw over all the teams that I love, to be honest. Like, they keep knocking out those teams, but at the same time, they're so fun to watch, but sometimes they're just a bunch of assholes, so it's kind of hard to cheer for them. But it seemed like the Rangers, and as much as people are divided on the Rangers, the amount of like enthusiasm and hatred for the Rangers and then for like Dallas, like I don't know, I think it would just be the most fun series to watch. But that is all I got to say for this video. So Dallas is my current pick for the going to the Stanley Cup Finals from the West. I think they do knock out all those other teams. I think they have all it takes of the fight, the grind, the superstar powers, the defense, the goaltending. They have all the keys to the puzzle. They just need to win it in the finals. So that's all I got to say. So thank you for watching this. If you made it this far, please, I am begging you, pick up your free subscription down below. And until next time, too sweet, have an amazing day, and ta-ta for now.